1985, Atari throws down the gauntlet.
It was a top-down kind of dungeon crawler view, and it was basically a very big maze.
Gauntlet was one of the first multiplayer dungeon crawler games for the arcade that could be played with 4 unique characters simultaneously.
You had 4 character classes to choose from. You could be the warrior, the Valkyrie, the elf, and the magician. They all had different attributes.
The control panel was wider than other standard uprights because of course it's got to fit 4 people. So if you like The Simpsons, if you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men, those kinds of games, you've got Gauntlet to thank for that design.
Gauntlet was the first game that made me want to get a multi-tap. It was 4 players. That's cool, 4-player co-op too, which is amazing.
And since all the guys had different skills, it made sense to have maybe, the Valkyrie with the magician or the elf with the warrior.
Right, the Valkyrie had the most defense, and she could protect the magician who had, the best projectiles.
And essentially you would just work your way through this top-down perspective of a maze inside of a dungeon that is just swarmed with hordes of enemies. I mean, there are just so many villains in this game. It's insane.
And you could destroy their hive so they stop spawning. And the goal was to, get to the exit, get some keys, get some cash, and continue to the next level.
Your health went down when you were hit by an enemy, but it was also constantly going down, so you always had to be eating food and that kind of stuff to keep your energy up. It was like Master Higgins in Adventure Island.
You are going to die, it's just a matter of when.
The voice synthesis in that game was top notch and so memorable. The wizard is about to die.
If that isn't iconic, I don't know what is.
Elf, shop the food.
Blue wizard shot a potion.
I've not seen such bravery.
I can't even do a good digitized voice impersonation. I should be fired.
Bard's Tale did a couple of things that really changed up the structure of dungeon crawlers as we had seen them prior in games like Wizardry.
The game's notable for being, another one of those Dungeons and Dragon-esque kind of games, but with higher quality 3D graphics and sprites that, they're animated, like portrait-looking sprites.
Bard's Tale is great because it gives you not one dungeon to traverse, which is what most dungeon crawlers gave you, but it gives you multiple.
This game is old school, so you're gonna have to get a pencil and graph paper to make your own maps.
Yeah, as you're playing the game, you're going through and you might have to solve riddles and things like that. Not much unlike Wizardry and Ultima. In fact, you could, on some versions of the game, import characters from those games, Wizardry and Ultima, and bring them in.
And it also gives you a town, like a fully fledged town that's not, completely driven by menus that you can explore and there's things to find.
The Bard's Tale is about a character who casts spells by singing one of 6 songs.
It's the game's namesake, and it's what really kind of sets it apart. When they introduced the Bard in Bard's Tale, it was very unique. The Bard had songs that he could sing, which were very much like magic spells. They usually affected the duration of the song, or the duration of the battle.
You could be a bard, a hunter, a monk, a conjurer, but the game is called Bard's Tale. Be a bard.
It was an Electronic Arts release game, so it had that really cool album-looking cover, really nice artwork that was ported over to various systems, including the NES, actually, and that artwork came along with it.
You think the Bard had groupies?
I think the Bard was your groupie. I think that's how Bardism works. I think they sing songs about the hero.
I don't like that.
Section Z is a horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up by Capcom that's a little odd because you're not in a ship, you're actually a person in a suit.
It's kind of weird because you're basically a little man flying.
The point of the game is to get from Section A to Section Z, so there's 26 levels.
What makes Section Z stand out a little bit at this time is not only are there horizontally scrolling stages, but there are vertically scrolling stages.
The goal of the game is to destroy a space station that's orbiting the Earth, which is actually a secret base for an empire known as the Balangol.
There's a button in Section Z that allows you to change your orientation from left to right, so you can shoot enemies as they come from behind you or from in front of you.
I don't recall a time having a horizontal shooter where you're just a dude floating.
So the constant changing of direction, plus the fact that the levels scroll in all the different directions, Really give it a kind of a sense of being in something, exploring something and trying to stop it, as opposed to, you know, just flying over a pretty colored background.
Excitebike.
Exciting! It's Excitebike!
Well, let's face it, it's a simple game. You're just puttering along and you don't want to overheat and you got to go by these other guys.
You're in a race against not only the clock, but obstacles and bikers. And it actually is exciting, like the name would lead you to believe.
I don't like Excitebike. I never got into it. I do not like it. I think it's overrated, and it's not fun.
Your bike would eventually overheat if you held your turbo too long, so you had to like balance how much you're using the turbo versus the regular gas.
That is annoying when you're overheating. It's like I finally am
All
doing
you
good
gotta
in the
do
game.
is go from B to A, just like this. Look.
There's enough nuance in it, as you go over the hills, do you lean forward or back, et cetera, et cetera.
You had to really be careful how you angled your bike when you were landing so that you would have optimum speed hitting the ground. If you were not careful, end over end, and you were screwed, basically.
I love when you get knocked off your bike in Excitebike. Then you slam on the buttons, you're like running now, get back to the bike.
If you landed on the rear tire, you would kind of do like a bounce thing, and it would slow you down a little versus just going straight if you're and horizontally.
Not that it really mattered in the game, but I just love to do wheelies until I'd accidentally flip over and die.
Yeah, your racer can really take some spills in an Excitebike. That is an indestructible individual.
You're wearing a helmet though.
Well, yeah, it's a good case for always wearing a helmet.
I mean, building your own tracks was a blast.
Yeah.
I wish you could have saved them.
Yeah.
We created the most impossible thing. It was just jump, 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 like extreme peaks that you could never, it was impossible, but it was fun.
Kids are creative. This is why kids like Legos. Kids want to create things and then play with them. Excitebike, more than any other game that came out on the NES in its first years, was that creative outlet.
Excitebike is one of those classic games. It's one of those games whenever someone says NES, it's one of the first 5 or 6 games you usually think of, Excitebike. The name alone is really iconic.
And now, the popular pinball games of 1985.
Ian here with the popular pinball machines of 1985. Comet by Williams. A family-friendly carnival sets the theme for this toy-filled table with the first solid-state million-point shot. Robot by Zaccaria. Take a ride on the robot bridge and destroy the pop-up bots in this psychedelic war between man and machine. Sorcerer by Williams. Taunts, thunder, and glowing eyes set the stage for this intense machine with a fast and high-scoring 2-ball multi-ball. And those were the popular pinball machines of 1985, because there's more to life than video games.